All right. So John and I are back for Nexus Sports Fantasy Football. We're just talking about this week's matchups and results, and want to kind of have some talking points here. I think we're going to talk about some of the blowouts. We're going to talk about a team that decided to take extreme actions when they get the frustration of the COVID. While we're talking about COVID, probably talk a little bit about strategy regarding COVID-19, how to kind of maneuver your rosters, what might be some best strategies or ways to kind of weave through it. We've got bye weeks coming up too. We had obviously a couple of teams that went on to a forced bye week because of COVID, but then we've got other teams that are actually heading into bye weeks this week, and how does that impact your roster as well? So I think there's a few topics here that we can chew on. Let's talk about some of these matchups. We had my team versus Gus's glorious team, and Gus's glorious team gloriously bowed out of this matchup, I'd say. I was actually kind of nervous there in this game, as I kind of did a blunder here. I saw that because Cam Newton got COVID, I was like, well, they're probably going to, postpone the game or what have you. And, I end up leaving what's it at here? I might be on the wrong week here. Maybe I'm talking about the wrong team. I think I'm talking about my other fantasy football team here. Let me double check here. Yeah, I'm talking about my other fantasy football team. But I did blank out on this one, Ryan Tonyan. I knew that he was going to have a game against Atlanta, considering that Devontae Adams was out, so is Lazard, and I left this guy on the bench for Waller, and I knew Waller was going to have a Waller game per se, but I could have definitely put Tanyan in for Cobb. Cobb ain't done much, so the blowout could have been much, much worse. In terms of what Gus could have done, I mean, you got Pat Mahomes there. He did pretty good. Continues the streaks of touchdown passes with no interceptions this season. And, but Gardner Minshew, he had a pretty stellar day, 351 yards, a couple of touchdown passes, and one interception, 3 points difference. But, and then you got CeeDee Lamb, Dallas. Who would have figured that Dallas game was going to be as many points as it was? 49-38, Cleveland. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. When I saw Odell Beckham Jr. score on that 54-yard touchdown run, I was like, oh my goodness. I had OBJ on the bench. I actually tried to trade him in another league. I had offered him up for Keenan Allen. I had a pending trade. On Monday morning, I looked and saw that I still had one outstanding, him for Allen Robinson. And I quickly swept that one away. As far as rosters are concerned, Gus, why do you have Gardner Minshew? Get rid of this man. You're not starting him over Mahomes. Get out of here. Open up a roster spot. And, I say it every week. Why do you people – and this is you people, all of you, besides me, why do you carry two quarterbacks? I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's unless you have one of the top five guys, Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes. See, who are some of these other guys? Aaron Rodgers this year. If you have one of those guys, you don't need another quarterback.
Yep.
If you have a bad quarterback, stream it. I mean, Ray's over here playing Joe Burrow.
Hey, I'm streaming
Every
that
week.
dude until the wheels fall off.
Every week. This is
Every
Ray's
week,
ride or die right here.
he's getting me 18 to 20 points. I mean, what else can you expect from your QB? Especially if he's not, like you said, the Pat Mahomes, the
Dak.
Jackson or Russell Wilson or as you said, our arch nemesis across the river there. But I mean, if a QB can get you 20 points, I mean, he's not doing bad. So this Gardner Minshew, what he's doing, I mean, he's not having bad numbers. Trade that dude. You can look at some other teams, and I can guarantee you, there's teams with far worse QBs on their roster right now, and they're probably looking, going, "How do I beef up my roster a little bit? Who can I make a move with to get a few extra points out of my QB?" This is a trade opportunity here. It may not seem like much, but it is.
Yeah, based on the scoring this week, a lot of teams need help in a lot of spots. There's a lot of sub hundreds this week, myself included. I know the first episode Ray said I'm the fantasy guru, but I just cannot avoid these injuries all season.
Yep. So
It seems to be the case for just about everybody.
see here, Minnesota Madmen take out of service. See here, John, you're not the worst team in the bunch in terms of points this week, but yeah, definitely not a good outing for you. Definitely.
Yeah, I just knew what was coming. That's why I changed my team name and put this first aid logo. As soon as I saw the news about Julio going out, I was like, well, there goes Matt Ryan too. Noah Fant obviously got injured first half, so that's basically three out of 9 spots.
Yeah.
And then if you look at my bench, Michael Thomas out, Mostert out, Le'Veon Bell IR, O.J. Howard tore his Achilles during the game. Deebo Samuel first game back. N'Keal Harry got garbage touchdown. Logan Thomas not catching anything. He's still getting plenty of targets, but he's not doing anything. So I feel like right now I'm kind of grasping for straws because I have so many injuries that I'm trying to deal with and navigate this thing. And on the other side, I'm facing people that have 3, 4, 5 people scoring 20 plus. So I'm just sitting here banging my head against the wall like, why can't this be me?
Yeah,
I mean,
you got guys.
Aaron lost Mike Evans for a couple quarters. He lost Austin Eckler early. So he was dealing with the bug too, but his bench outscored my team. So it wouldn't have mattered how he set this thing up. It was a wrap.
Yeah.
No matter how you set it up. So.
Yeah. And man, Aaron's got some serious depth there too. So I know he was sitting there talking about, oh no, Mike Evans this and Eckler that and this and that, but he's got it spread around. He's even got 2 QBs. I mean, these are starting QBs that you want on your roster, Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. So if this is kind of one of those very few times that I would be like, yeah, I can understand why he's got a second QB. He's stashing that thing away from everybody else. That's what he's doing.
No doubt. As soon as Aaron Rodgers exploded against the Vikings first week, he knew that he had a trade chip.
Oh, and if it's not a trade chip, he's playing defense against anybody else from getting Rodgers. So,
right, he's not just going to drop Rodgers.
Oh no.
Or Josh Allen to waivers.
No,
because that's chum to sharks right there.
Exactly. So, yeah,
it's kind of a pick your poison. He's still going to get 20 plus a week from either one of them. It's not going to really matter. Maybe a potential buy low opportunity with with Rodgers on bye this week. Maybe.
Yep, maybe. Let's see.
I'm sure Aaron's got a high price on him. So
Let's see here. We got Skolda Bowl versus Johnson's. This should be a lot closer matchup concerning where they're at in standings. This is going to be killer. Kicker gets no points for you. How does that happen? And here's another one. He's got two QBs, Fitzpatrick. I don't know about that one. I mean, he has his hit and miss moments, but I wouldn't hold a roster spot for him.
Well, he's in a better. You're talking about Brandon's team, right?
Yep.
Well, he's definitely in a better spot now than he was coming into the week. Obviously, with Nick Chubb's injury, that brings Kareem Hunt back into the RB1 picture. Obviously, Mixon exploded. Mike Davis is doing well in Christian McCaffrey's stead, and he's got the depth for sure. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about his roster. I did say that it was nice that he had all of these backup running backs for depth, and it seems to be working out. Obviously, JJ here sitting Kittle. As soon as you heard that Kittle was going to play, you put him in.
Yeah.
43 points on the bench.
And you pick
for our basic man, Jimmy Graham. If he ain't scoring touchdowns, he ain't getting you them points.
Oh man, Jimmy Graham. I mean, he had a monster game last week, but you can't count on him going back to back over George Kittle. Ain't happening.
George Kittle is that dude.
Man.
Especially since they have no wide receivers in San Francisco.
Exactly. It's not even their true starting quarterback that's getting the ball to him. It's the backup. So he's going to do those dinks and dunks. You know? Yeah,
he gets that. He gets those yards after the catch for sure.
Yeah. Boy, you had better options than Jimmy Graham. Either way, I wouldn't even been mad if you put Hawk in there. Hawk was supposed to have a much better game this week, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's see here. Got the Cheeseheads and Minion Squad. Now, this is probably gonna. Let's go ahead and go back. We're just gonna save that one for later. Let's go to the next one. All right, we'll come back to this one. That's definitely gonna be our segue.
Yeah.
So let's go daring bench warmers. Man, Dak, man, he just went off. I think he's probably got the most points out of anybody this week.
Well, he's throwing 60 times a game.
Yeah.
Better be putting up numbers. They're chasing every team they're playing because their defense is so bad.
And look at this. I mean, that's outstanding right there between those two. If you get 100 points between three players, that's an outstanding lead that you got there. And you even had room a bit here with other players. This is brutal here.
Dak and OBJ almost outscored this entire team.
Yeah.
They scored 89.68. Just 3.5 points short of beating him with those two guys.
In a single game at that.
It's insane. Obviously, Alex's team, very, very boomer bust. Because he scored very low last week and had scored really high the week before. So you're going to ride the roller coaster all season, but you'll take these peaks when you get them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And Oliver, he just got a bad bench all around. That's a whole lot of zeros on the bench. And it doesn't help you got a couple of guys.
IR. You got guys that are out. You got Tariq Cohen out for the season. You got Paris Campbell out for at least 6 to 8 weeks. You got Sterling Shepard out for at least 3 weeks. Like, 2 of these guys shouldn't even be rostered right now.
Yep. I would drop a few of those players off that roster. Let's see here. You got Carson Wentz and Cam Newton. I can understand a little bit why you're holding on to Cam, but I don't know. That's an interesting roster you got there. I would definitely switch it up so you can get yourself better than this 1 and 3 spot that you're in right now. Drop those 2 players that were mentioned. Prince, Hilaire, and Jumping Jacks. George takes his first L of the season,
and Steph gets her first win.
Yeah, that's an upset like nobody's business. George.
When Calvin Ridley doesn't catch any passes, and you get upset that you played Darrell Henderson over Todd Gurley when the rankings said was what you should do. It's when that came up in the group chat, I'm just kind of sitting here like, it's so hard to feel bad for you because you played the wrong RB2. I'm sitting here trying to figure out who my RB2 is even going to be because I got so many injuries. I don't get to choose from Darrell Henderson, Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Todd Gurley. Those aren't my 4 options. So, I mean, when you can only pick 3 out of those guys, you pick the right 3, in my opinion.
Yep.
You just got McVay. That's all that happened there.
Yep. But kudos to Steph. Getting that first win. She still
needs a second running back.
Yep.
I mean, Duke Johnson, he did a little bit, but you can't count on that. Obviously, Godwin, I still think that she should trade him. There's a lot more wide receiver depth than there is running back depth. But maybe she's waiting until his value goes back up.
Yeah.
Who knows? With everybody in their hamstring issue, like Julio yesterday, re-aggravating, then you're out a couple more weeks, and having these guys scoring you 0 for 3, 4, 5 weeks, that doesn't do you any good when you could get a much more productive player on a week-to-week basis. I feel like it's going to be the wide receivers that are dealing with the hamstrings more than any other position.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and come back to this one. Cheddar Heads versus Minion Squad. Both
this is a tasty one right here.
2-2. And looks like Nick did pretty much the best that he can do there.
Yeah.
But Minion Squad, interesting week for them. They when did they start dropping players? Was that
like 245 or so?
Yeah, that was crazy. So they essentially were it came across as notifications where you started seeing a few players drop from Minion Squad. I think it first started off with Washington, and then it went to Johnson. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. Not a big deal. The third name opened my eyeballs, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Juju Smith-Schuster ends up on the waiver wire, and then Corey Davis, and I'm like, what's going on here? You know, and it obviously became evident that Jean Paul had gotten frustrated about the situation with not having guys being able to play and being able to really make any moves with his roster. I mean, you got Gibson here. He blows up for 22 points here. And Kenyon Drake, I mean, he's a frustrating running back. I'll tell you that much. I didn't trust him when he was in Miami. I personally don't trust him when he's in Arizona. Does it mean I drop him? I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look at his week-to-week production, but at this point in time, he's certainly not starting for me if he's putting up 3.5 points.
And he's likely hurt. So that could be a problem going forward. If I'm in need of a running back, I'm trying to get as many Kenyon Drakes as I can get. I will buy solo on Kenyon Drake.
Oh, really?
I will send offers for Kenyon Drake just to see if I can get him. Because he's still playing at least 70% of the snaps when he's healthy. It's been more or less a matter of bad luck when they're inside of 5 yards. I don't think he's gotten many touches inside of that. That's definitely got to regress to the mean at some point. Kyler Murray can't sustain running in, and he can't pass to Chase Edmonds every single time in there or have Edmonds run it in. I definitely think that Drake is due for positive regression at some point. We just have to see what his injury looks like right now. But every league I'm in, I'm trying to buy the Kenyon Drake. I mean, he was second round pick. Obviously, I don't have any of him personally. I didn't draft him because I knew there was risk. But there's not a lot of opportunities where you get to buy a 70% snap running back for cheap at this point in the season.
Yeah.
They're generally not on waivers. So you have to find ways to make it work. Obviously, John Paul's team is going to look a lot better after this week because he's got 4 usable players that he can plug in and have in their spots for the rest of the season. He could play Corey Davis, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Gostkowski without having to pull them out for the rest of the season because they've already bye week. But he definitely has room to maneuver elsewhere. So if I can buy low on Kenyon Drake from him, I'll do it.
Well, that sounds like a trade opportunity for Jean Paul to make an offer, or you to make an offer to him. I definitely would say that this guy here, if he puts up 22 points in a game for me, I'd be certainly looking to start him. You've got a couple of IR spots here. Obviously, unfortunate situations there, but at least you got somebody who's got some sort of showing of some production there. Yeah, it's very, very tough to maneuver the waters of COVID here. So let's talk about strategy here. I know for me personally, not in this league, but in other leagues, I've had players that are on COVID. And I've made some bad decisions preemptively because of hearing that one player got COVID, and then I was like, oh, this is going to affect this game or what have you. I'll give you a a good example and a bad example of what I've done with, and so unfortunately it's not in this league that I can't really show the examples, but in another league, I got Cam Newton, and he went down, so I picked up Kirk Cousins this week. Figured Kirk Cousins might have a better shot at beating Houston and might have better performance. Did he put up 20 points in a game? No, he gave me 15. But I mean, that's some positive numbers there. My downfall was that when I heard about the news about Cam Newton, I pulled him and put him on my bench. But I also had the Kansas City defense, and I figured they're going to be out this week, and I needed to play a defense. And my matchup was pretty close. We're talking, a couple of points different. So I was like, I don't have the opportunity to just sit my defense out and just risk not getting any points. So dropped the Chiefs and ended up picking up I think the Packers or what have you. And then I come to find out that they just rescheduled the Chiefs game to Monday night. So I mean, it's a bad blunder here. But I mean, for other teams, I think you have to really look at your teams and how well you're balanced. If you have a situation where you're running thin at running back, you don't want to take the risk of trusting that your guys are going to make it through the season uninjured or not on COVID at this point in time. I think the amount of injuries we've seen is way higher than anticipated. So I would start looking at teams that have players that are on the waiver wire and seeing which ones are most likely to be the backup running back, that could potentially be a starting running back. So we had a few players here that I am looking at right off the bat, like Chase Edmonds, Joshua Kelly. Those are my first two right off the bat that I'm looking at. Gus Edwards had a pretty decent game, but he's third guy down the depth chart there for Baltimore. So you just kind of have to know who lines up in that second spot. Madison comes to mind as someone who could easily fill in that spot. And I think he's on somebody's roster already. But if you're certainly aware of who that number 2 guy is and he's on this free waiver wire here, certainly pick him up. Same thing can go for wide receivers. If you know who the second and third wide receiver is, certainly look to pick him up. Traquan Smith is the number 1 receiver there that I would look at. You've got the situation with Michael Thomas. He's been out for several weeks, and when he's been out, they've been getting the opportunity to Traquan Smith and Emmanuel Sanders to get the ball. Neither of those guys have really showed up, but one of these days that's going to hit, and whoever it hits on, if they can pull it together, that's who they're going to start looking at as moving them into that number 2 spot.
Tim Patrick at the top there too.
Yep.
Obviously, KJ Hamler getting hurt, Noah Fant getting hurt. Jerry Judy's doing as much as he can. Tim Patrick on the other side has gone over 100 yards. He scored a touchdown the week before last. Another running back to keep in mind, Dearness Johnson, Cleveland. He came in and rushed, I think, 13 times for 95 yards after Nick Chubb got hurt. So the Browns put Nick Chubb on IR with a sprained MCL. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks. So that's 4 to 6 weeks of knowing that Cleveland under Kevin Stefanski is going to run, and they're going to run, and they're going to run some more. So maybe having the other half of the Thunder and Lightning with Kareem Hunt may be beneficial. I know it's a little bit deeper, but being able to run 13 times for 95 yards in an NFL game is kind of a deal.
Um, a couple other players that I would like to mention out here on the waiver wire, and you kind of have to look at the numbers really closely. And I know this is kind of like really getting deep dive stuff, but like Zach Pascal, he's actually outperformed T.Y. Hilton this season so far. More targets, more catches, more production. So he's another player that I would certainly look at if I was looking for more depth into my wide receiver pool. Danny Amendola, he's had a few games where he's went off. It's just been, I think week one, and this week were the two games that he's really had some strong production. But again, he's getting close to outperforming the number two receiver there.
Isaiah
Um,
Ford, Miami. He has definitely surpassed Preston Williams. The depth chart, I don't know if it's because Preston Williams coming back from the ACL injury last year or what the deal is, but Isaiah Ford has been out targeting him, um, out producing. So that's another name to look at. And then Greg Ward in Philadelphia. Philly doesn't have a lot of people to throw to, so they're throwing to Greg Ward. I don't know if Alshon Jeffrey is on a team yet. Obviously, this is sorted by points scored during the season. So Alshon Jeffrey has 0, but if he's out there, he should be coming back sometime either this week or next. So if he's available, he should be one of the first people picked up.
Cheddarhead's got him.
Oh, he is on it.
So he's in a good situation there. So yeah, you got quite a few different players that are out there that you can certainly pick up or what have you. So I think that's about it. Just if you're you got your team and you got players that are injured or what have you, you definitely want to look at who you got for depth. There's still opportunities to trade out there as well. I mean, John's already suggested who he's interested in. I know that there's teams out there, like I said, that don't have strong quarterbacks that could possibly make a move for better positions there, or teams that have 4 or 5 running backs. I mean, you can let one or two of those go, combination of a wide receiver, and strengthen your roster a bit more. And then just play the game of taking the risk of some of these backups. These guys that the starter just got injured this week. Who's the backup? Take a risk. He might do something special.
Yeah, they might actually hold the job even when the person comes back. That's the name of the game in the NFL. Is if you're kind of a journeyman player and you get hurt, you may never play another snap in the NFL again because you got hurt. You've seen that happen so many times.
Well, you turn around and you look at the greatest one ever, Drew Bledsoe. Gets injured. His no-name 7th round pick quarterback Tom Brady comes in, and now Tom Brady has how many rings on his finger? That dude ain't going nowhere.
And Bledsoe end up with the Bills, I think.
Yeah, unless who's the backup for Tampa Bay?
Not Mike Glennon.
Well,
I'm blanking.
Doesn't matter anyway. He's not starting, but he could be starting if Tom Brady ever got injured. So, but that's the point of which we're talking about is just pay attention to who's on the roster, who's still getting injured, and some of these injuries, even though they might suggest, hey, it's 4 to 6 weeks, some injuries linger longer. I mean, you look at Michael Thomas; he should have been back 2 weeks ago, according to some team doctors, and they're saying that he won't be back until next week. So that's 2 additional weeks that Traquan Smith, Emmanuel Sanders, um,
Alvin
Kamara have been
Kamara.
eaten off of the miss targets that should be going to Thomas. So it's just some thought there. So well, I think that kind of wraps up this week's segment. Um, just want to follow up by saying, if you haven't done it already, be sure to like, follow Nexus Sports. We've got a couple of things with Nexus Sports coming up with a Halloween volleyball tournament, and that's on October 31st at the West St. Paul Dome. And then we've got some open pickup volleyball. So if you don't want to commit to a tournament or a league, you can do open pickup games. And then lastly, we've got just a little over 10 days left to register for our 1-1 flag football league. And that plays on Saturdays between 6 and 10 p.m. starting November. So if you're interested in any one of those, feel free to stop by nexussportshub.com. I'm Ray Kidd. That's JB. Thanks for tuning in.
Provide us with feedback. Subscribe to Nexus Sports on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Best of luck, everybody.
Peace.